Good afternoon, good evening, good zinta, good y'all, whatever it may be where you are. I'm Not Sports Cards. Hope you're doing well. Remember to like and subscribe. I try to do as many videos as I can. I've got a few backed up that I want to put out. For a small channel like me, the more subscribers I get, the more it means. So comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff. So today we're going to talk about the 1977 top Star Wars market, vintage Star Wars. Seems to really, I could be hyperbolic and be like it's on fire. It is picking up rather well. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I don't know what this is where I would insert the theme music, but I know everybody hates it so much I choose not to. So here I go. I'm down small in the corner. I'm going to go through a lot of stuff. One thing that I'm going to mention in this video, but I am not going to go into big detail, is what I have up here, which is the 1977 Luke Skywalker PSA 10, which is up for auction at Heritage. It ends in 25 days. I had done a video recently where I was talking about the Kurosawa sale that theoretically went for $100,000, and that if a PSA 10 Luke came up, I thought it would beat that. We're going to find out, right? Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. With 25 days left, we're already at 47,580 with buyer's premium in there. I don't know. Can I bid? I don't know if I have enough, what you call it in here. I don't know if I have enough credit to bid it, but I would. Anyway, well, there's quite a few PSA 10s up for auction on Heritage, and we will see what the top end of this market is. I did not expect to see this card come up for sale this soon. There are only 9 copies of a PSA 10. Most of them are locked up in PSA registry sets. So they just, maybe one comes up for sale every 2 years, and that's going to get fewer and fewer as time goes by. We shall see. But let's look at the generic stuff, kind of the stuff that the average person or most people would be buying. So, you know, we'll go over here. We'll just look at some stuff here on 130 point. It's been mentioned to me that you can kind of use eBay stuff as much as you can use 130 point. I find eBay's product research to be, I don't know, it's good for many years past. But let's look at, I just did some PSA stuff. Let's see. Well, let's look at highest sales here. That's not going to do us any good because those are the old ones. Let's look at Luke Skywalker right here. Luke Skywalker is kind of, for the most part, been the bellwether of this set. I say that the PSA 8 Luke Skywalker rookie is kind of the bellwether card of this market, and as it goes, so does the market. I don't know why this is not what I was showing earlier when I was looking at these. It didn't include these heritage sales and stuff. Recently, I mean, that's a long time ago. It's weird because I was looking for recent sales and I did not want to include everything. What do we have over here? Is this going to be more? Okay, this looks more PSA stuff. An 8.5, which is a rare grade to find. An 8.5 sold for $2,100. 8.5 is actually probably the one that I would want the most because usually they look as good as 9s, but they don't cost nearly as much. You're seeing, all over the place. An 8 sold for $1,000 recently. That was a good 8, but an old label, and old labels are a little scary these days. Although buying it through eBay is a big deal. That's a video that I'll do at some point about the concern of some fake slabs floating around out there, but that's a different thing. And really, that's where buying through eBay is a good thing. But you're seeing here is like PSA 1s, 40, PSA. This is a good deal for a PSA 6, 120.5. People are being, like with vintage, with this stuff, they're being more cognizant of eye appeal. So like all 6s are not created the same for every grade. But here's another 8 that sold for $918. PSA 7 sticker, 125. Another 6 for 145. Those are the autos. This is the other Luke, which doesn't get much love. The 57, $75. Here's a PSA 7 350. Again, on and on and on. I could go through this, but you get a sense like the PSA 7s had dipped at one point below $200 for a hot minute. For a month or two, they were hovering around 225. 350 is where they'd been for years, and they are back at that price. Um, Let me see here. Some stuff I want to show you. Okay, so I've mentioned this in previous videos. This is the gem rate statistics for the 1977 market. There are 1980 Empire Strikes Back and 83 Return of the Jedi cards. You can extrapolate through there. But 77 is kind of the easiest way to look at the market. Both of those markets are improving as well. But you can see this kind of rise in cards graded from 48,000 to 105,000. So I did some quick back of the napkin math, and it looked like in 2025 we're on pace to grade about 7,000 cards. We've graded 5,000 for the first 9 months. It's a little under 7,000. In 2024 we graded 20,000. In 2023 we graded 20,000, and in 2022 we graded 11,000. So you see this slowdown now, right? That's obviously when you grade 40,000 of these cards in 2 years and then you grade 7,000, that's a lower number, but it means there are just a lot fewer out there. There are multiple reasons for this. I would say some of the biggest reasons I would name are there was no PSA special this year for Star Wars special for May the 4th, so it wasn't cheap. People have learned that you don't really get amazing grades on these cards. You can continue to see that gem rate number coming down from 8.5% here all the way down to 4.1%. You're just not going to get 10s, obviously. They're few and far between. So, no specials. People don't get great grades. The market got saturated because people graded so many cards. And then the last one, which is, I think, finally coming into play, is that, and it balances this out. It's just there aren't as many cards to grade, right? People found them all. They graded as many as they thought were decent, and there are just fewer and fewer every year that would meet the qualification for grading. Now, as prices go up, that may change. So the biggest place that you can see the kind of uptick in pricing, I'm going to, a very specific card has changed, but it is definitely more than that. So you can see them up here. So this is the number 58 Han Solo. Let's see if I can open a link, a new tab, just to show you guys what the card looks like. So Han Solo has 2 rookies. Of course, this is off the screen. Let's move it back over here. Han Solo has 2 rookies, the number 4 and the number 58. The number 4 has almost always outsold it, but the number 58, which is kind of more, it's a vertical style, has been doing better. I don't know why I can't get this might give us a better picture of one. There we go. That's what one looks like. But, this is quickly becoming the second or third most valuable card in the set. Behind the Darth Vader is extraordinarily hard to grade. But this card has been ramping up. So we'll go back over here and look. You can see that PSA 7 sold for 100. This is an auto, doesn't really matter. 5, $25. 7, 100. 6 is $50. 6, $35. Here's an 8 for $275. Now, Harrison Ford is doing an autograph signing, and that definitely had an impact on this initially, which his card shot up because people want a nice copy of this. As far as I know, everybody had to kind of send their cards in already, so that has ended, I think, more than a few weeks ago. But the trend of the value of this card hasn't. It's the most iconic Han Solo pose. I have a PSA 10 of the number 4, so this actually hurts my pocket to think about the fact that I might have the wrong Han Solo card. But I've always said I love this card. I will say that, it looks great from kind of this distance. As you get a little closer, you realize it's a little more arty than it is a photograph, but still probably a great card. But this card has just been going up and up and up. I mean, to see 7 sell for $100, those were $15 cards 2 years ago. And 8s were under $100, and now they're $300. They're hard to find. We can go look over here at the population report. Zip through here. We'll get to the 58. The 58. There are 1,000 of them. There are 1,000 of them out there. It's not like there aren't any out there. But in high grade, there are only 68 9s and 14 10s. That is pretty low, considering. And you don't see them really. They haven't added any 10s in years. They may have added a few 9s, but not many. And then you'll see, obviously 8 is a strong grade for it. I mean, you don't see 9s for sale. I think that 9, that 9 price was probably around $500, $600 for a while. That is probably over double that now. I would say a 9 sells for at least $1,000, probably a little bit more. You can compare that to Luke. There are way more Lukes graded, 4,200, 89 9s, way more 8s. But yeah, I mean, seeing that to be like maybe 50% of the value of a Luke, not that. I mean, obviously, it's not. But right now, it's about a third of the value of a Luke. So you can extrapolate that however you want. I don't think that is across the board. I don't think if the Luke sells for 100,000 that the 58 is going to sell for 30,000. I just think it's a card that people want. But you're also seeing. Let me see here. All right, we can kill that. We got that up there. All right, so here are some recent sales. What I've noticed is that this set attracts a lot of set collectors, and for years the inventory in the PSA 8s and the PSA 7s, so it's just there, just always there. You could always buy it, and I think that there are people out there who haven't reacted to this change, and they are still selling cards, I think, too cheap. Like Series 1, which is the first 66 cards, not green, but the blue ones. A PSA 8, the floor hit somewhere around $30, high 20s. Again, auction is different than buy it now, but they really kind of bottomed out when there were just too many of them on the market. And they were all owned by people who didn't want to collect them. They were owned by people who were just trying to make a few dollars. Nothing wrong with that. But now that they've dispersed out to collectors, they're becoming rarer and rarer. This PSA 9 Kenobi, $235. I don't know who's paying $200 for a PSA 5 Luke unless they think they can crack it. R2 for very low. Here's that Luke sale. We saw the 8.5 that actually went for $2,100. Here's a PSA 7 going for $35, $40 for 8s. These are the cards that are the ones where you're really seeing it. The big cards, when in this set, the biggest card is the Luke, the number 1, and then after that you kind of have the number 58, which is the Han Solo we went through. You also have the Darth Vader rookie, the Princess Leia rookie, which is this one here, the Obi-Wan Kenobi rookie, and then you start to get into like scene cards. Like this is a decent scene card here. There are some higher end scene cards like this one. $75. I mean, I looked. I bought 4 PSA 8 77 cards on eBay last week. It is the first time I had bought one PSA Topps 1977 card on eBay in the last 2 years. People know me, know I collect. I used to collect the set. There's a lot of reasons why I went away from it. Matter of fact, I was a seller, not a buyer. And these days, I'm a buyer, not a seller. I don't think you should get crazy about that. It's just some other things going on. So you can see Leia PSA 7s going for $50. There was a time that when the market was overwhelmed, the 8s were auctioning off. We're talking about a year or 2 years ago. They were auctioning off right around that price. So we can flip back to the pop report here for Leia, and you can see there, tons of Leias in 8. Leia might be the second most graded card. It's 400 8s. There's 373 7s. 300. So I mean, getting a good price. There are only 115 9s and 15 10s. I think we've seen more new Leia 10s than any other card. Solo, there are only 11. There had been 10 forever. There was 1 over the last couple years. Vader, there are only 5 PSA 10s, only 66 9s. So Leia, it's weird because Vader and Leia, I mean, Vader's harder to grade. But, you know, it gets a little more, it gets closer the lower you go down on the grade. So, but we go back here and we're just seeing these cards go up. And then also everything else is kind of going up with it. You also see that there are these kind of, you know, you have Scanlens, Australia, you have New Zealand, you have OPG Canada, Mexico, Argentina, all those like UK, all those type of foreign cards are going up in value. Here's a PSA 8 that sold for $20. I bet you that was just here and gone. That price is not where we're at anymore. That card's worth at least double, and that's one of the worst cards in the set. Here's a PSA 7 Vader, went for $80. PSA 8 Tarkin, these are low. PSA 8 Kenobi, $125. Again, these cards not that long ago you could get for half the price. They've doubled in price. That does not mean, by any stretch of the imagination, do I think that they are going to double again. Here's a PSA 9 that just sold. I missed this. I thought this was an 8. This is a Stormtrooper on the Lizard. I would have bought that. I'll always kind of buy 9s in Series 1 at $50. I think they almost always, if you can sit on them a little bit, go for double. But yeah, I mean, you're seeing basically PSA 7s go what 8s were going for, and so forth and so on. So the market continues to grow. And, you know, like as I mentioned, specific cards, here's that other Han Solo rookie. Open a new tab if you're not familiar with it. This is the number 4. It's a nice looking card. It just happens to be horizontal. It's the first card set, Space Pirate, Han Solo. By the way, that some of these grades are, I mean, I'm not saying that this is a much better card. There's definitely some tipping, but I've seen some cards that are just, they look undergraded. I mean, I bought 4 cards, and I bought them because I thought they were cheap, and you know, I have sold so many that my collection is depleted, and I kind of feel like I know the floor. But when I looked at them, I thought they were all under, like, all could reasonably be 9s, to the point that I may crack and resubmit them. Again, we're seeing more of this. I mean, a PSA 9. I don't know what this actually sold for. But this card in a PSA 9 was a $125 card a month ago. Let's see if we can go back over here and just go. Let's just go top Star Wars. We'll just go PSA 9 and see if we can get any sort of pricing. See if it'll give us anything remotely close if we get a sense. Okay, so that card sold for $225 still again, and the other one sold for this Leia Vader one. That's a premium one. It sold for more. You can see like over the chasm, $100. I wonder how far it'll go back. Now the other series don't sell for nearly as much, but I mean even they're especially Han Solo. Steve keeps ticking up. I've always thought that Han Solo was undervalued compared to Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker's more iconic. More people like Han Solo. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong. Yeah, that kind of like sums it up. In my opinion, is that you know, you look at the gem rate report, and this is so this is a little bit more information from gem rate of like what's been graded in the last month, and the Lukes continue to get graded. You can see Han Solos, they're like 14 graded last month. I mean, it's expensive. It takes a long time to get these cards graded, and they don't get necessarily wonderful grades. This will sound crazy to people. I've actually been considering sending some 77 raw cards to SGC. I've just had more success with the SGC from the perspective of I get closer to the grade that I think that I'm going to get. There are less surprises. Now, did they sell for less? Of course they do. But I'm sitting on like this number 58. I believe I have somewhere around 15 raw copies. And there are quite a few cards. I have a lot of raw copies that, you know, I wouldn't have sent because I would have thought, they'll get 7s or 8s. And that was kind of a loss or a break even. Whereas now, like the number 14, I sold an SGC 8.5 for like $250 not that long ago. And if I have some that I think I can get an SGC 8, which would probably get closer to a PSA 7, I would send him to SGC. I mean, SGC really does look from a vintage go for eye appeal more. And I think that is it. Listen, who doesn't want better grades? But the truth is that I think that's what people want. Now, you go into that knowing that you're not going to make as much money. But if I could get a card back from SGC in 4 weeks versus 4 to 6 months with PSA, and be more effective, like if I think I'm going to get somewhere between a 6 and an 8 on this, I actually do. It might work, and I would only do it for very, very specific cards. I'm going to try it soon, but it's good to see this market go up. There's been a lot of talk about the. Did I lose the heritage? No, there it is. About this kind of situation where iconic cards are shooting up in price, and I see it. There are a couple other iconic cards that in non-sports that are starting to shoot up. I'll probably do a video on. I'm actually waiting till I pick one up. Sorry, guys. I just if you know the market, you'll know the market. Batman. Just there are iconic cards are going up, and people are just kind of evolving what they're buying. Any sort of big institutional style money that's coming in, they want big cards like this, and I'm very interested to see what this Luke goes for. I mean, they don't come up that often, and the record I think is somewhere. I think it was 88,000. I don't know if they have it here because they were showing it off before. Let me see if I go back a page. I don't know. I don't know what happens. All right. We'll worry about it later. I'm pretty sure the record's 88,000 with buyer's premium. I would think this would exceed that. Again, these just don't come up that often. There are just a jabillion Star Wars fans, and there are just many, many more high-end card collectors. And I'll tell you, this one, it looks good. Like I'm usually very critical. That looks like a 10 to me. And it also comes from an era where, yeah, that looks like it. I have absolutely zero complaints about that card. None. That looks like a 10 to me. So that's, yeah, I mean, I would expect it to get at least that 88,000. Again, we don't know what happens in the world in the next 25 days, but I would expect it to exceed it. Now, listen, if you could predict the future, you do a lot of things with that ability to predict the future. But I think we see this, I'll go through this whole auction later. But 77 Star Wars cards doing very well. If you own them, I can't tell you whether it's a good time to buy or sell them, right? Like, I mean, it's always like, hey, at a certain price you're a buyer and at a certain price you're a seller. Through all of what I've done is that I was selling my 8s and my 7s and holding on to my 9s and 10s. And it's probably pretty close to what I'd be doing. There's some other things about like cracking and resubmitting certain cards, like the cards that we mentioned, the maybe 4 or 5 big cards in the set. You think you have something that's really good, give it a shot. But it's always fun to see positive news. So you hear Albert snoring. Remember to like and subscribe. I'm NotSportsCards, and I am out.